I'm Prerna, a writer from Dear Asian Youth, and today we're going to have a conversation about diversity and inclusion in the media industry with Nathalie Varli. Nathalie, would you like to introduce yourself and who you are?
Yeah, I am Nathalie Varli. I'm an actress. I played Madison on Young Royals. It's on Netflix.
Young Royals basically is a show that includes a lot of diversity in several demographics, and it is based in Sweden. But I thought it would be like a good idea to kind of share like the morals of Dear Asian Youth and how they relate in a way to Young Royals. And together, like me and Nathalie will have a conversation kind of about diversity and inclusion. So that's kind of like the whole scope of our conversation today. So, Nathalie, you play Madison on Young Royals, a character who is honestly such a refreshing breath of air to the show. So, Madison is a transfer student, I believe from New York, if I'm not mistaken, and
Yeah.
she's never afraid to voice her opinion. She's so bold, and that's what I love about her. So, what led you to discovering the role of Madison and then auditioning for it?
Well, I when I first applied for the role or for the TV show in general, I didn't really know anything about it. It was very hush hush. The only information I got was description of how to do my self tape and what they wanted in the self tape, and then I sent that in. And about a week later, the casting director called me and she said, "Can you come in for an audition?" And that's when I knew I was going to audition for Madison. And yeah, kind of like you say, she's just not afraid to say what's on her mind, and it's fun because I only auditioned for Madison, but I didn't have to audition for anyone else because it was just like this is the
You
person
knew
I
her, yeah.
yeah. She's so different and unique, and yeah.
That's so true. Like I was watching Young Royals, and then I saw like Madison as like a student. So I was watching it in Swedish, right? And I
Yeah.
saw how Madison spoke in English while everybody like replied to her in Swedish, and I thought that was like really interesting. So then that's when I like kind of like focused a little more on her like background and her being like a transfer student from like America, and I think that's what like really interested me about like Madison as well.
Yeah.
So going back into like Young like Royals, like the show, what do you think about like the rapid popularity the show's been gaining ever since its release? And why do you think the show has been gaining so much attention worldwide?
Uh, I don't know what to say or what to feel because it's so unexpected, but at the same time, it's expected in a way because it's such a good show and it tackles a lot of subjects, and it's such an interesting point of view. And for me it was like, okay, this is going to be big, but it's always about like how big can it be, and then you never really understand until it happens. And I'm still kind of shocked that there are so many fans out there, and I've seen on Twitter like people are rewatching it for like the 10th time, and they have committed like little communities. And then, like I said, the reason why I think it's so good and like why or so popular is because there are so many different subjects that people can resonate with, especially around this time. It talks about social media. It talks about anxiety. It talks about sexuality, pressure, class, status. There's so many subjects in there that at least one person in a family can relate to. But yeah, I think that's why people enjoy it so much because they can relate to it in some way or another.
Mhm. Yeah, like especially like as like somebody who's like an audience like of the show and who has like as you said, like I've joined like a watch party for the show where we watched the whole thing again. I've watched it with my like friends like separately like the show. Like it's like been like kind of like because it's something like I don't think you see it in a lot of other shows, especially because most of a lot of us are like from the US and we see shows that like kind of put us as like put like minorities in a way as like model minorities with like certain stereotypes. So like kind of this show Young Royals like is like a refreshing breath of air to us because it's like different and like it includes like diversity and like different demographics and like sexuality which is not really like talked about like that much in like the like American TV industry. So I think that's just so amazing. And also Young Royals, as I said before, I'll lead into like another question, is a show that is part like of a new era of TV production, as I said, where diversity in like various demographics is embraced rather than rejected. So I said for me, being from the US, most of the minorities I always saw on TV were like model minorities that fit certain stereotypes. Like for me, being from like a South Asian descent, um, usually the people who I saw who also had South Asian descent on like TV were either like really good at math or like were awkward or
Yeah.
like people that like you know because it's kind of like I mean being from America from like being from the US for me like we're there's so many different like races so many different sexualities so it's kind of like it's kind of like obvious or like clear that there's like different stereotypes that's like associated with like everyone and like it's so important to try to break that and I think Young Royals like kind of breaks that like whole stereotype like the whole stereotype especially going to like an American audience. So growing up what were your experiences with diversity in the media and did that in some way inspire you to start an acting career?
You know what? Well, first of all, I just want to say that I'm so, so thankful that I am in a show that has such a diverse cast. I remember just like mid filming, sending like a, haven't really said this to them, but kind of like to myself, sending a big thank you for casting such a diverse cast. I think that's such a good representation of what it is in how it looks in Sweden, for example. You know, it's not the stereotypical like you're talking about. You know, we all have different ethnicities. We all have different sexualities, and so I'm so, so thankful, like you are, that the show decided to have a diverse cast. And then going into your question, you know, growing up, I wasn't super focused on ethnicity. I would watch movies and TV shows and just be like, oh, cool, I like this movie or I like this TV show. I wasn't necessarily focusing um, on like the actors and what their ethnicities were. But I've thought about it more so now that I'm a bit older. And I remember the first time it like really hit me was when I watched Aladdin. Because I'm like my parents are from the Middle East, and Aladdin is supposed to be like in the Middle East, and I was just like, wow, like everyone in the cast looks like me, and that was the first time when it was like, okay, I
Hmm.
get it. I get what people are talking about. I get why representation is so important for people because it just made me feel some type of way, in a good way. And I remember talking to my mom about Young Royals, and I said, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I hope that like when people that look like me see me on TV can think, oh, I can do it too. And I don't know, that just like I felt like that was important.
Hmm.
So yeah, representation hasn't really been like a like something that I've thought about a whole lot until recent years.
Yeah, because I feel like representation, like we're only starting to kind of like notice how important it is, like kind of when like our world gets a little bit more progressive.
Yeah,
Like it's interesting hearing about your perspective too from that.
yeah.
So you mentioned something about how your parents were from the Middle East, so I'd love to hear more about your background. So from like your childhood life, and your dreams to your culture, and who or what inspired you to be who you are today.
Yeah, so my parents are from Lebanon, and then they moved at a very young age to Sweden. So I was born and raised in Sweden. I grew up and kind of the same, like I said before, I just never really saw myself as, oh, I'm Lebanese and I'm this and this. I was always like, oh, I'm a Swede and I'm going to act like a Swede and I'm going to only talk Swedish, even though I speak Arabic fluently. It was always like I just wanted to fit in so badly that I would do anything really. Um, but kind of the same, like now that I'm a bit older, I'm just like cherishing this part of myself that I haven't really been able to do. But yeah, and then I grew up playing soccer, and I never really mentioned that I was interested in acting. I knew it and I felt it, and I was like, I'm gonna be good at it, but I never mentioned it to anyone. I played soccer, and people thought that was like the thing that I was going to do. Um, my mom, I remember I had a conversation with her not too long ago. She was like, "Yeah, I just assumed you would play pro soccer. I never really thought acting was a thing." It wasn't really until I was gonna start uni or university that I was like,
Mm-hmm.
so listen, I'm gonna study film and theater. And they were like, what?
So it's like
um,
kind of out of the blue, like they
really?
just
Yeah.
really
I
wow.
didn't prepare them. I was just like, this is what I'm gonna do.
So like,
Sorry.
were they accepting of you wanting to like go into like theater or like acting?
They were. I think it was just more so like, um, it was always question of like, what can you do with this education?
Mm-hmm.
What can you do? What kind of works can you get, or jobs? And maybe you need a plan B. What if this doesn't work out? And I just had to reassure them that you can work with this. You can. There's like a whole. There's so many different jobs within theater and within film, and I think that kind of um, eased them up a bit. And then I got like nominated for different plays that I did in uni, and I think that's kind of when it started to set in for them that like, okay, our daughter is good at this. So, but they were always supportive. It was just
Mm-hmm.
like questions.
So at Dear Asian Youth, we value like interactions with our community, both locally and worldwide. So to those who share a similar background as you do and are aspiring to be creative, whether it be like in the media or in literature or any other passion of theirs, what like are some words that you'd like to say to them?
Um, the philosophy I go by or try to go by is that God closes one door to lead you to the door that's going to be open. And that really helps me a lot to, if I don't get a role, I try to look at it from a positive perspective instead of like being really sad about it. But then like my biggest advice would also be patient. It is a process. Be patient with the process. Be patient with yourself. Um, and like it's so easy. I remember like don't add pressure to yourself. I remember just being like, this was maybe like 3 weeks after Young Royals dropped. and I was laying in bed and I was like, I don't have a job and this is so sad. And I was kind of like feeling sorry for myself. And I just had to remind myself, like, okay, but look what you've done. Look
Mm-hmm.
like where you are now. And so don't add unnecessary pressure. Be patient. And sometimes people aren't going to support you. Um, there are two different types uh, of people who aren't going to support you. The ones that like aren't going to support you because they are probably not good to have in your life anyway. And then there are people that have a hard time because they don't understand it. So
Mm-hmm.
like my grandpa, he's probably going to watch this. um, he didn't really understand why I chose acting, and he was like, you should become a lawyer. You would be a good lawyer. And he didn't necessarily like understand why I chose acting. And then once I started showing him what I was capable of, he became like my biggest fan. So sometimes you just have to like show people what you're capable of, and then that's when they are gonna like fully understand it and then fully like support you.
So, finally, like kind of to like end everything off, like I'll ask a bit of like fun questions because usually that's what we like to do. So, I know
I'm
you
not
resonate a
nervous.
so I know you resonate a lot with Madison.
Yeah.
Is there any other like character that you feel like you relate to on like a spiritual level, or is it like just Madison?
Oof. Um, I don't know. I feel like every character has something that you
Mm-hmm.
can probably resonate with. Like with Felice, it's her like kindness toward Sarah. With Simon, it's like his acceptance and like um, caring for other people. Um, but yeah, Madison. It's Madison. I have to go with Madison.
Of course, like I could see why. Like I like Madison, just such an awesome character, and I just like we love to see more of her. Like she's just so cool. Like I saw one time, like my like most vivid image of Madison is like when she had like a glitter like on her like face, and like her hair was in like those really cute space buns with the braids. Like I just thought she was the coolest person ever. And like me, if I didn't have like my short hair, like I totally recreate that style. And when I get long hair, like that's what I'm gonna do.
Oh,
So,
you'll have to send
um,
me a picture.
yeah, of course. Um, and also, like, okay, last question. I don't want to keep you for too long.
Oh,
But what scene did you enjoy the most in the show? Like, whether it be like acting or like just watching the show as like a show.
there are two scenes that stood out to me. It's the one in the soccer field when he's like,
Mm-hmm.
everything's fake,
Oh.
except my feelings for you. I thought it was super poetic, and there are just so many things that you can like take out from it. And I thought it was just brilliant because yeah, I play soccer, maybe or played soccer, maybe that's why, but it was
It
just like
resonated with you.
maybe, maybe I don't
Yeah.
know.
I love that scene too, yeah. It was
It's a good one. It's a good one.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then my other favorite scene was when he confronts August.
Ooh.
I got chills watching
Did
that.
you?
I got chills, yeah.
I had to pause it for like a second. I was like, okay, we're at this part. And I like to go deep breath and then I was like, okay, let's proceed. And then I like unpaused it and I watched it. I was like,
It
so
was,
yeah.
he just like finally
Mm-hmm.
let
It was kind
everything
of
out.
satisfying as much as it was like a little
Yeah,
shocking in a way. So
yeah,
it was nice to see.
I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those are my
Yeah,
two favorites.
that's your two favorite scenes. Honestly, I think those are two of my top favorite scenes too.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I really like all I like this I like Madison's like one of my favorite characters. I love all the scenes with like Madison and how she's like dump him like Felice. Like I'm like yeah you say that like and also the scene where it was like Felice, Willem and Madison in that
Yeah.
little like crevice and they're just like they're having like a good time and it's kind of like aside from like the actual show and like the actual like theme of the show. So it's like interesting to kind of see like all the kind of different aspects of the show and like what it really stands for. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
So um thank you so much for joining me. I'm like it's like a complete like fever dream for me.
Thank you for having me. I feel super honored.